morning, everybody. So first of all, hope we're all staying healthy and our families are well. So mine is doing well so far. So fingers crossed, we'll get through this. So we want to talk about purchasing. How do we optimize our purchasing? What can we do to make our purchasing more efficient? And what we're going to cover is we'll cover the purchasing advice report. There are 3 options on that purchasing advice report. I'm going to briefly touch upon forecast-driven purchasing as an overview. I won't be able to actually show you how to build a forecast. And then, building a purchase request with maybe some of the advice tools right in that purchase request, and then possibly just tying in the MinMax report, which is a fairly new report. It actually hasn't been out there for very many versions. So I just want to get started with this. So I'm going to go to purchasing and purchase requests. I usually have at the end of this, why are we writing purchase requests? What are we going to get out of this? There's actually a lot that you can get out of writing a purchase request. One, that purchase advice report is a really great tool to help you manage or analyze your trends. 2, purchase requests give you an idea. You can run reports on what you have coming in, so promise to pay, and your purchasing advice can actually limit what you're going to buy next based on what you already have on order but hasn't arrived. 3, so easy to hand off receiving and labeling to somebody else so that you can focus on managing your inventory. So those are, my really big points about, why do I want to write this purchase request? I've been doing really great with just, receiving. Well, these are some really good reasons because, it's so important at this time to be able to focus your attention on your costs and your inventory management. So the purchase advice report is a really, really good tool, I would say. You can run it in 3 options: maximum, replenishment, and days of supply. Let's start with maximum, and I'm going to just open my inventory window here somewhere. Inventory. I should have had it opened already. Apologize. But on your inventory window, you have, for each of your locations, you have these min and max quantities that you can assign to each item in each location. So if you're multiple locations and some of your locations are smaller than others, you can set what your maximum stocking level should be, and then in the minimum, what your reorder point is. And you would base your reorder point on maybe how long does it even take to get here? How many do I sell in that time period between ordering and actually receiving? So keep in mind that those min-maxes can fluctuate as well. The purchasing advice report works with those min-max tools. It basically will show you or choose, suggest to purchase quantities when things hit their reorder point and only order up to that maximum or that stocking level. And that stocking level could be based on, past sales, or it could be based on what you feel you need for presentation stock, what you feel you should have. It could also be based on, the way the vendor packages it when it's shipped to you. So I'm going to go with, maximum. What is the order of the items? Do I want it to when it prints the report, do I want to see it, all the items in all the locations, or do I want to see each location and all the items, or do I want to see, vendors and then items and locations? I'm just going to stick with items for the moment. I could do all locations. I have 3 in here, or a single location. or even a location group. If we can talk about location groups in a minute, but if I want to centrally receive and distribute from a central warehouse, then you're going to want to work with location groups. It's going to come back with a report to suggest quantities to buy. And do I want to adjust that suggested quantity for purchase requests that I haven't posted, open POs that I haven't received, if I had set some vendor minimums and vendor multiples on my record? So if you remember, back in the day when we started, each item can have multiple sources of where you can purchase the item from, and each one of these sources can be a vendor item record, and that vendor item record can have either a minimum order quantity, that is how much you have to buy just to get them to ship it. So maybe, and this is a quantity, not a value, so maybe in order to ship this candle set, I need to buy a dozen. And I can buy, 13, 14, or 15 candle sets after that, but I have to start with a dozen. The order multiple is maybe they package this candle set by the dozen. So an order multiple would say that I need to buy 12, 24, 36, 48. I can't buy actually 15 of them. So, and these will give you warnings. And in the purchase advice report, it will actually change with this rounding option on whether I want to increase to the next multiple, do the rounding, or decrease to the next multiple, or just don't adjust. Just show me what I need, and maybe I'll fix it from there. I'm going to put do not adjust. I don't think I have any vendor multiples assigned. What do I want to see on the report? Is this bottom left-hand section? Do I want to see the list view or the grid view? Do I want to see suggested quantities? What quantities do I want to see in the grid view? Min-max and the suggested, sold and on hand and the suggested. Showing all quantities expands what I have. It has, it already shows me my min-max and my on hand, but it'll also expand into net available. So if I have some of those on hand quantities in reserve, it will show me, what my net available is on that one. Do I want to buy from a primary vendor, a lowest cost vendor, or a specific vendor? I have to say my data isn't all that great, so I'm just going to go with primary vendor. If I went with a specific vendor, I may not actually have any data in here at all. It's demo data, and I'm a slacker in sales, what can I say? And what kind of units do I want to look at? Is it stocking or vendor units? And then, print quantity sold. Well, what do I want to see in the quantity sold? Maybe because I'm ordering and it is now April, I want to see what I did last April so that I have an idea of what the sales are like. And, much business, garden centers are very heavily on what they buy and sell at this time of year. Ski places, not so much, so maybe they want to see what they did last year at this time. And this is really great because I have sales from 2017, so I don't have any last year sales. You can over here filter this. A lot of times you may filter this just so that you see active items only, or items, you don't want to include anything that you've marked as discontinued or inactive because you don't really want to buy it again. Or I just want to see a certain category. And then my location is already here, but I could also identify additional filters based on the information out of the location record. I'm not going to put any filters on because then my data is, hit the preview so we can see. It's a report, so you can preview it. All right. So this is what I have in my bottled water for my main location. I have quantity on PO, it says 0, quantity on purchase request 0, quantity on customer orders. There are 49 on customer orders. My min-max is already set for 10 and 75, and my quantity committed is 56. My quantity available is 49, and my net available, that should be your 56 less your 49. That's my net available. So I've sold in that time period, I sold 55. It wants to, based on my min-max, it wants to have me purchase 68 more of these bottled waters. Okay, so you can see this advice report is giving me a lot of information all in one report so that I can make that decision that, yes, maybe I really do need to buy 68 because my net available is 7. I've already got 49 of those, 56 committed. So it will go through and look at all of my vendors that way. If I have anything on a purchase order, which I thought I did, but it doesn't look like I do. If I have anything on a purchase order, it will actually identify them here. I'm going to cancel this. And if I change this to, maybe I have more on my East location, we'll see, same thing, mins and maxes. I do have mins and maxes set. I didn't have any sales, I don't think. Yeah, I didn't have any sales in 40 or 13. Ooh, I did a bad thing. I oversold my paintings last time I sold them. And I have 89 on PO. So maybe I didn't really oversell them. Maybe I just haven't received my purchase order yet. Okay, and if that's the truth, and I know that my purchase order receiving hasn't been completed, I can always go back to here and adjust the quantity for the open POs. And now it's going to tell me I don't need quite so many. Now I only need 72. I'm sorry, wrong one. I don't need any more because if I adjust the quantity for 72, I'm going to, hopefully, let's go back and look at that data now, get that, I'll be covered for what I need. When I am looking at this, when I go through this, I am going to review this, and maybe I'll play a little bit with the filters, and maybe I'll play a little bit with the sales, but what I can do to make this much easier is I can also generate those purchase requests right from here. And since it's a purchase request, and I have the report that tells me everything, you know, I wanted to know about those items, you know, what was my sales history? What do I have on hand? What do I have promised to customers? You know, I can just generate those purchase requests and still work with them based on the information from the report. So we're not trying to take out any of your knowledge. We're trying to enhance your knowledge and make it easier for you to make decisions, make better decisions with information from Counterpoint.
Hey, Diane, we do have a question that came in. So how do we use location groups for central receiving?
Oh, I will get to that.
Okay.
Let me go through the 3 types of reports, and then we'll good question, but and I'll do the group in a minute. Well, actually, probably 5 minutes. So replenishment and basis apply the other 2 options that you have. So, you know, who has time? We all say this. Who has time to set mins and maxes? If you don't have time to set the mins and maxes, you could always use the replenishment. And replenishment basically builds those that data. It builds it based on sales history. So again, you know, if I really want to look at what's going on, I'm going to go with the Maine because I'm pretty sure I have more sales in Maine than I do in East. I can pick a time period. It could be last month, it could be last week, it could be last year, it could be 2 years ago, doesn't matter. I can pick a time period that I want to base my suggested quantity on. So if I'm doing this, I'm going to uncheck all of these so that I have data as well. If I'm doing this, that history factor now comes into play. And what the history factor is saying is, you know, in my sales time, if I sold 10 of these, my history factor is 1. I want to replenish 10 of these. If I change my history factor to 1.1, means if I sold 10 of these, I want to suggest a purchase of 11. I want to increase my business by 10%. And, you know, during these hard times that we're having right now, it's possible that when you're looking at something, you want to also decrease your suggested purchase. So my history factor is 0.9. I'm going to decrease to 90% of what I sold. So again, if I sold 10, I'm going to actually have a suggestion of 9 to buy. And I'll get back to these check boxes in a minute. I just want to preview this report, see what I have. And so now I have my heavy duty apron here, which is a gridded item. You can see all my grid information. I sold 24, and it is now suggesting that I buy 21 because I've asked it to reduce based on last year's sales. And you can see I have on hand 300. So this is going to make a huge difference if I check the current quantity box. That apron now just goes away because I have more than enough on hand to satisfy my anticipated sales or replenishment based on past sales. If I also adjust for min and max quantities, more items will drop off because I'm overstocked on items. The last one is, if I don't have mins and maxes set, the last one is actually my favorite because it will do the same replenishment piece based on the same date range and history factor, but it also allows me to set how many days do I want to have on hand. So based on the sales from last year, or in my case, 2017, or last week, or even a time period of 3 or 4 months, you know, how many days do I really want to keep on hand? And maybe I know it takes 15 days for my supplier to replenish, and maybe I know that I'll order from him every week. So what I want to do is have that 15 days of supply plus a buffer for that time period it takes to get in, or that week that I'm ordering once a week. So I'm going to say that I want 21 days on hand. So that's 3 weeks. 2 weeks of waiting for the supplies to come in, 1 week because I'm ordering every week. Let's see what I get. And now it's going to come up with different information based on, I sold 55, you need 28. But I have to be really responsible and make sure I'm ordering from my supplier every week so that I can keep my inventory in place. So those are your reporting options. When I talk about all locations, it's going to put every location in a single report. And when I hit the generate, it's going to create separate purchase requests. And a separate purchase request for each location indicates that I'm going to be receiving that product directly at my remote location. When I use a location group, I'm not sure I have one built, but let me build one. I'm going to say that I want to, I'm going to go with all. I'm going to put in my main location, my east location, my kiosk location. I'm going to save that. When I use a location group, I can now create a merged, an allocated merged purchase request. And an allocated merge purchase request will combine all of the quantities I need for all of my locations. And I'm going to hit the generate here. Don't know what I'm going to get. And I can choose whether they are merged or separate. Allocated merged will suggest quantities for all the locations that I'm trying to purchase for, and it will write one purchase request that is expected to arrive at a single location. That's what my location group is going to do for me. It's going to allow me to suggest quantities for how sales are going across all of my stores, and then allow me to receive it all centrally. When I receive it centrally, because it's allocated merged going to a single location, when I receive it centrally, Counterpoint is already set up or configured to create transfer outs as well. And those are transfer outs that are not posted. You can still manage those after they're created. So I'm going to say, okay, I don't know what it's going to do. Oh, created 4 purchase request lines on 3 purchase requests. So I do have some purchase requests that are now allocated merged. Let's go look at some of these that I have created. Any other questions, Darlene, on that location? I'm going to maybe flesh it out a little bit more of that.
Yep, no, just that, just an overview.
Okay. Okay. All of those purchase requests that I generated, and remember, I didn't hit generate every time, they're all in here now, and I can work with each one of these individually. And I can work with the lines on each one of these individually. Let me just look at this one for a minute. This one is going to Wilson Gourmet Gifts. It is shipping to my main location, and it is part of my allocated merged request. So it's gone and taken what I need from multiple locations, pulled it all into a single request. And when I look at the lines, I only have one line on this, is why I picked it. When I look at the lines, it has how many I need in each location. So apparently I don't sell water in Easton Kiosk, or I didn't in that time period, and I do need 28 in Maine. So I'm gonna hit okay. Looks like I need more in, oh, I have open POs. That's why it didn't take any more, but hey, what the heck, I'm gonna buy 48 more of these. And a dozen of those. So I can still manage the purchase request after I take a look at it, after I've reviewed the report, and I can still make changes to it. I can take lines away. Let me go to something with multiple lines. You know, the steamer's set on the way out. There's something new coming in. I really want to sell out what I have, so I don't think I really want to order more. This gives me an idea of that new version that's coming in, that new model that's coming in, how many I really want to order. But I am going to delete this line right off this purchase order. And that's how you get rid of lines entirely. Here, the masala wine, if I go and look at this, again, it's only putting it in for my main location. I didn't set my vendor multiples or my vendor mins and maxes. I know I have to buy them in groups of 4, so I'm just going to update that to 16. This stuff will be good forever. I mean, well, not good forever, but it will last until I reorder it. And I don't have to, it's not going to take a big bite out of my, at $4.85, it's not going to take a big bite out of my inventory assets to have a few extra on hand. People are cooking from home now. Maybe I do want to think about that when I'm looking at this, is that not as many people are going out or dining outside. They may be doing takeout, but I need to maybe update or increase what I am bringing in for those home cooks. See what else we have in here. Okay. The other type of allocated purchase order I have does create lines for all my locations, but what it does is, let me just, I'll make a new purchase request to this one. I'm going to do allocated separate on my my location group. When I do this and I add some lines in, it is going to create 3 separate purchase orders that are anticipated to be received directly. So if you have a mix of things that ship direct to the store and things that come into a central warehouse to be distributed out, this allocated separate would allow me to, again, centrally create a list of items for each store, but create those separate purchase orders. So add items down here. This becomes the on-screen purchasing advice. I go to add items. It has the same tools over here that we saw in the purchasing advice. You know, maximum, replenishment, days of supply. Set the order quantity to the suggested quantity. Am I adjusting my suggested quantity for any of these other pieces of information? Open, unposted purchase request, open purchase orders, vendor minimums or maximums, what I currently have on hand. And, you know, again, since I picked replenishment, what's my sales date coming up to? So I'm just going to pick a larger time period. Actually, I'm going to pick a, I think my second store didn't open right away. And again, I still have my history factor. When I do this, I go to next, it's going to actually build that same list that it did in the report. It's going to build it right here in my on-screen view. And I can choose to select them all to go on the purchase request. I can choose not to put something on the purchase request. I can even update quantities right here on the purchase request. So it's giving me the same information. While it's missing some things, I mean, I can't actually see the history unless I zoom it, zoom the item, or, you know, there's little pieces of information missing. But I do have it on screen that I can make these determinations on the fly. Maybe they won't send me 19, and maybe they'll send me it in pieces of 12. So I'll do 12 because I don't want 24 of them, you know, but this is close to 24. I'll get 24 of those. So you can see I can just quickly make these decisions on the fly. I certainly don't want just one of those. If the kiosk in the mall needs one, I'll transfer it from somewhere else. As a matter of fact, I will update this to include one more for the kiosk, and I'll just transfer it out when the kiosk needs more. And when I hit add lines or add lines and close down at the bottom, it is going to, again, create my allocated purchase request. And if I still had more changes to make, I can still go in. And at the end of this quantity line, there's that icon for editing my locations, and I can still edit my locations. Okay. I can call this in now, give my vendor this purchase order number or not. I can use their website to place my order, and I can then, even if I'm using their internet service to place the order, I can then adjust these quantities for, you know, maybe they don't have enough of these candle sets to work with. So I'm going to adjust this to buy what I need, and maybe it's going to go 12 and 12 because I can only buy 24 of them total. I'm going to say okay, and I'm going to save. And so now I can adjust this, and as soon as I'm done with that internet sign and I'm done talking to my sales rep, I can post these all individually. When I post this, you can see up at the top it says it's an allocated separate. When I post this, it is going to create the journal, 2 or 3 separate purchase orders. So here's a 105801 that's going to my main location. Let me just make this a little bit bigger because I can't see it. And then there's a 105802 going to my east location. And my kiosk wasn't open, so I really don't have anything for the kiosk. And you can still get purchase order forms to email out. Any questions about the purchase request? I'm going to post that allocated merge purchase request because I want to actually receive it so that you can see how that works on the other end, which I think is this one. And I'm going to fix it so it actually has something to chip out. We're going to go with 48 there, 12 here, 6 here, say OK. And I'm going to post this one. Okay. All of those are in here now. All of those purchase requests, well, I still have some, I could post them manually, are in there. When my user is in their touchscreen, there's actually more information that they can get. There's more information that they can get out of the system as well. And if I was going to look up my China, and I'm going to zoom it, it now says that I have, minus on hand, but I can look and see all the open POs that are out there. If I had put in anticipated delivery dates, I can customize this to show the anticipated delivery dates. And now my users at point of sale have more information. So again, we can not lose sales if my user knows that, oh, that is going to come in, my delivery date, that's going to be in a week. Can I take this order for you and give you a call when it arrives? So again, more information to get out there to make the orders more viable, to make people more connected to you. And if you put in delivery dates, which I didn't, it will, give them information on the fly, or they could call you. But one less call, if they have information at their fingertips, one less call is much more efficient for your sales process, say it like that. Some things, I did forget the delivery date. I didn't put it in, so I'm going to go back to change my purchase order. I'll just change one of the last ones I did, this one. And I can actually enter in an anticipated delivery date. I said it takes 2 weeks to get in here, so I'm going to put this in for 04/17/20. And now,
hey, Diane, while you're there, there is a question about how do we order different sizes when apparel piece is ordered, when it's a gridded item?
oh,
Do you have a gridded item we might be able to pop on that PO?
absolutely. I'm not going to pop it on that PO, but I can pop it on another one. Wait a minute, I got to figure out where my gridded item comes from. And is that also allocated merged, or?
I don't know. Jolene, are you looking for an allocated merged purchase order or? Yes.
Okay. So we'll we'll start simple for a minute. One that is, well, we're not starting simple. This one's allocated. And I'm going to put my apron on here. That's my gridded item. And this is what the grid looks like when it's allocated merged. So right now it is going with each location, size, color. So first three are my main location. How many do I want to order in small, medium, and large? So maybe I want to order 3 purple, 3 denim, and then 6 extra large in purple. And you can see that these are all, what do I want to say? These are what's on there right now, or what what I'm buying right now. And if I don't have something, so I have an extra large in denim as well. If I don't have something in here, like I have small, medium, and purple and denim, extra large and purple and denim, if for whatever reason purple doesn't show up here in large, extra large, it might be that I've decided I'm not stocking it at this location because it doesn't sell at this location. So, you know, keep that in mind as well, that you can, if something doesn't sell at a location, you can not stock it at that location, and so you don't have to carry it. It could always be, say, a special order item for somebody to get it there, or yeah, somebody, a drop ship maybe to get it there. So I'm going to go with, and the kiosk just cannot handle that much. It's very small. So I'm going to go with these quantities, but again, it's location, size, color. And I am going to say okay. And now I'm ordering 34, you know, for all of my locations. If it was not an allocated PO, it would just show size, color there.
Great. Diane, we have a follow-up question from earlier when you were talking about MinMax reporting. I mean, the MidMax Advice Report. Now, I know that's new, well, per the NCR document, it says it's new in 852.
Yes.
But one of our attendees has an 855 version and they could not find that report. Is there something that they need to do?
Yes, there is. And actually, so this is kind of a tangent, but it's good information to have. Every time you do an upgrade, you probably want to go to your menu codes and bring up your menu code. And there's this verify menu option, and it basically runs a report. And it says the following items are in admin but not in standard. What you're really looking for are the items, the one that says, I cleaned this up once, the following items are in standard but not in your menu, which is this one. The following items, following forms are in the standard menu but not in your menu code. And these are the ones, my menu code happens to be carried forward from some 8.4 version previously. So, and they've changed a lot of these names, which is why there's so many in the list. But this is where you would look for new menu, new features that maybe need the menu enabled. But if you go into your menu, and I'm going to go with, and then this is the menu I actually cleaned up, so you can see it's a little bit cleaner here. Following forms are in the menu code manager, but not in standard, and everything that's in standard is in the manager menu. Really what you want to do is find your menu, go to your menu editor. It's under inventory reports. There is a new MinMax report, and you would drag it into either inventory reports on the center custom column, or you would drag it into a special manager report. If you have a report menu that you use just for you, drag it into there, and now you've got it. And since this is the new version, you've got to have it in your menu to get to it, of course. If you find it is in your menu and you're just not seeing it, of course, you know, MinMax Advice Report. But a lot of times when they add a new feature, your menus do not get updated on the upgrade, and that's a great place to go to see that verified menu to see what's possibly out there that you might be missing.
So Diane, what you're saying is even if it's not on their menu, if they use that search bar on the new interface?
It has to be on their menu. So if they
Okay.
think it's in their menu, they can use the search bar to find it. But if they use the search bar and it doesn't come up, then update your menu code.
I gotcha.
Kind of a quick, oh, this is supposed to be here. All right, so back to purchasing requests. We went through the purchasing request center, purchasing advice, allocated. My overview on forecast-driven replenishment, there's a lot of things that are behind the scenes on the forecast-driven replenishment. One of those things is the forecasting piece. Under inventory, there is a forecast, and in the forecast, you can create new forecasts. I don't happen to have one on here at all. And basically, I'll just kind of, why do I always spell test the same way? Your forecast date is today, you give it a description. What location do you want to forecast it for, or a location group? You can still do a whole group if you want. Historical data to use. Do I want to base my forecast on everything that's ever gone on? And you know, some industries are they fluctuate quite a bit, you know, with models change, like the ski industry. The ski model that was produced last year is probably not the same one this year. But what historical data do I want to use? You know, I can go back 11, 12 years if I want, or I can just go with, you know, a few months. And I'm just going to pick a January. Oh, I don't want to do that. Wait a minute. 2017 JN and 2017 DEC. And what's going to happen is from this point on, from this end month, if I say I want to go to December of 2018, it'll take my January to December dates and forecast every month out to, in 2018, out through the month of December. Okay? Do not use the transfer ins. You can set it, definitely you want to set the vendors, a filter, because if you try and forecast for everything, it will prevent you from doing that. It will prevent you from forecasting across all your items. But basically what it does is it's going to come up with, and I probably, if you don't mind, I'm going to open up something that I have a demo forecast in, and I might have to reshare it. And yep, and this one. I'm just going to change over to this one for a minute. This one has a forecast kind of already built into it, so it's a little bit easier to talk about. So here we go. This sample forecast is using the earliest possible date going through December of 2009. It's forecasting from January of 2010 all the way through to February of 2011. It's filtered based on a category. What it's going to give you at the end is it's going to give you this what it anticipates the sales are going to be based on past history. And you can look at this, you can modify it, you can look at the graph for it, and you can see, you know, these are my sales ups and downs. That's the red in the time period that I selected for history. The blue is the anticipated sales. You can see it kind of goes in the same up and down process. And up here, it has all of the has all the different items. And if this was a gridded item, you would have each grid cell would have its own anticipated forecast or anticipated future sales. So again, I can't really go through, I don't have the time to go through all of how to build that forecast, but back in the purchasing, back to my purchasing here for a minute, back in the purchasing, sorry, I've lost my application that I'm sharing again. Let me share back to this one. Back in purchasing, I can then do this forecast-driven replenishment, and I would pick my forecast. I should have left it on the other one. It would then, I'd choose a month, and it would generate new min-max values. That's the whole purpose of the forecast, is to help me determine what the min-max value should be every month. Now, you kind of have to do this every month to have that min-max value change for what you're ordering for. So if I'm ordering, you know, middle of April, I know that what I really want for mins and maxes is what I need on hand for the month of May. So I would choose the month to be May in here. That's about all the I can cover on that forecast-driven replenishment. Customer-specific purchases just pulls right from customer orders and creates purchase requests based on those customer orders. And if they're being shipped to you, you can definitely just add to them to complete your stock. I did want to, before we lose too much time, I did want to go and receive that allocated merge. So the other piece about that allocated merge is under your inventory setup, you decide which type of transfer you're going to use when you receive those allocated merged allocated merged items. Let me think. Oh, it wasn't here. It was under purchasing. And for those of you who have never talked to me, I do hum to fill in the blank places. So sorry, it is a bad habit of mine. So in here on your purchasing control, you're going to identify what transfer method you're going to use when you receive those. I like transfer out because it separates them by location, and I can work with each individual location on its own. But you could also use quick transfers if you only had one other location. The quick transfer would work just as well. So when I go in and receive that allocated merged, and I hope I remember which one it is. This is the last one. And nope, because that's being received to East, so that's not a good one. It's got to be one received to Main. Yeah, this is my allocated one. And you can, at this point, you know, if they didn't send you all of that, you can now, in your quantity received, identify who's going to be shorted if they didn't send you all 66. And maybe I'm just going to say, well, I'm not going to send anything to the kiosk. I'm going to say, okay, they sent me 60. Oh, I didn't identify if any of it's going to be back ordered or not. Still that same piece. Do I have any back orders? This just happens to be a vendor I don't take back orders from. And now I'm going to post this. I'm sure I want to post. Yes, I am. I can print the journal, I can print the forms, I can print labels, but that transfer should be right here waiting for me in transfer out right now for me to continue working on this. And here it is. It's transferring from main to east, and I'm sending 12. And I can even zoom right now to see what I've got. Maybe I want to send more than 12 or less than 12. Oh, I think I better send more than 12 because main's got 36 and I've got to cover some stuff. So you can see that I can still even add more lines to this to increase what I'm sending or make more efficient what I'm transferring out. Let's see. One other thing that I did want to talk about. Any questions at that point? Sorry, let me just ask that first.
Nope, I don't see any more questions.
Okay. One other thing, because I know we're running out of time, I want to talk about is that MinMax report. And I did happen to, for those of you who have AA5 versions, you know you can set a favorite. I happen to set it as a favorite, so I didn't have to search through all of those inventory reports. MinMax Advice Report. Again, I can do all locations, location group, or a single location. In this case, it might be easier report to read if you do it one location at a time. If you're really better than I am, obviously, because you're more involved in your inventory than I am involved in mine, you may choose to do the whole location group and see what's happening or what the min-max values are suggested across all the locations. I'm just going to go here. I saved a parameter that I knew would get me some values. So I'm going to load them. And I'm going to look at this. So basically what I said is, you know, I want a min-max advice. I'm going to base it on sales that I know I have in the last quarter of 2017. Do I want to set min-max quantities to 0 or not? Like, no, I don't think I want to do that. How many days of supply do I want to have on hand? What's my maximum number of days of supply? And what's my lead time to get it out? Now, this happens to be, so I should have my kiosk location in here. The kiosk location happens to be a location that I just supply from the main location. I don't ever ship anything there. They don't actually need a lot of information or a lot of product on hand. They don't really have a place to store it. So I'm going to take a look at this. And do I want to, if I use the vendor lead time, you can put lead times on those vendor item records. But what I'm getting of here is, let's make this a little bit bigger. What I'm getting here is I'm getting my items, who I buy it from, what my categories are, what I have on hand, what my days on hand are, my old min and max values, and what my suggested min and max values are for the time period that I've picked. And the other nice thing is I can review this. My old min and max values are 1 and 8. It's saying, oh, you're not selling that much, just, you know, keep one on hand at all times. I can review all of this, and I can print this out, and I can manually enter these min-max values, these suggested min-max values if I want. But if I find most of them I agree with, I can just apply them. And I can do this at any time. You know, I can do this once a year, once a month, once a week, doesn't matter. Because I'm picking that time period that I want to use, it's going to then make a suggestion. Any questions on the MinMax Advice Report?
Nothing in the Q&A right now.
Okay. I will make some additional comments here under the inventory records. I do have a number of people that they use this to say, you know, how many they want. And since they resupply frequently, they actually may make that minimum quantity just one less than the maximum, because they're always sending a regular delivery out to their remote locations. They actually just want to always resupply if they're not up to their maximum. And this is typically what you would see is the minimum quantity would be 7, the maximum quantity would be 8. And when I'm ready to make a delivery, it's always going to try and restock my kiosk location up to the 8 that I know I can have on hand. Okay, anything else I can, oh, what else can I tell you? Any questions that we have?
We have a shy group today.
We do. And so maybe I should hum. Those of you who have heard me already know I do it.
So I guess just important to point out that the MinMax report is an 852. So that is the version that you would need for that. What else? Is there anything else important that we should point out that you can think of, Diane? Do you have notes that we'll be sharing? Did you already say that?
Yes, I do have notes that I could share. It was not quite the same order that I made the presentation, but I think I think I've covered it all.
Okay. Would you mind going over the MidMax report, adding it to the menu? I'm attempting and can see it in my custom menu, just do not see it when I search for it.
Okay, so right here up at the top, it's telling you what menu you're in. And I happen to be in a special RCS menu that I created so that I can update demo data. But go to, of course, Setup, System, Menu Codes, and bring up your menu or someone else's menu if you want it to be in someone else's menu. Go to your menu editor. Again, the custom menu is what you have. The default menu is what's available. You're going to open up the reports in the default menu, and you're going to find a place to put this in your custom menu. I'm going to put it someplace really different because it's already in my inventory menu. I'm going to go and take this and put it in my Create Training Data menu. So on my default menu, I have this MinMax Advice Report. I am going to left click, drag it into a menu folder. I can't drag it into custom menu. It has to be in one of these subfolders. I need to close and save this twice. So I'm going to close this. It's going to prompt me to save. I'm going to say yes. And then it's going to prompt me to save again. So I'm going to say yes, or I'm going to use the save button. And it stopped sharing my screen. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. All right. So now under here, which is where I put it, there's my MinMax Advice Report.
I don't know if this is a question, but Arlene, I think it's a question. In System Admin?
Yes.
Is that where you find it?
So wherever you find your, yep, admins, I think it's admin setup users in that menu structure. But again, if you're on one of these 8.5 versions, you have the looking glass and you can just type in menu and it'll bring up menu codes.
Yes, great. Okay, so I want everybody to, thanks everyone for joining. I see a lot of familiar faces from previous webinars. We're doing our best to kind of pull webinars together that we think you might want to see, but we'd also like to hear from you as well. So if you have suggestions on webinar topics that you'd like us to cover, We'll be doing webinars next week, which we do already have a schedule in place, and those will be emailed to you today. And then we're building our calendar for the following week. So please go ahead and email those suggestions to me at dmcqueen@retailcontrolsystems.com, and I put it on the chat window.